Welcome to the first episode of Hammer and Nail, the show where we don't just talk about politics, we break it down, dissect it, and sometimes we hit it with the hammer of truth. I'm Kendall Pearson alongside Chris Hammer, Callie Evers, and Bryce Howard. We are here to nail the issues that matter the most. Trump has been in office now for almost a month. He's signed multiple executive orders, met with other world leaders, and has been very clear about his steps for the next 4 years. There's multiple topics that Trump has brought up that has America questioning why he would say such a thing or why that idea would even pop into his mind. We can take the Gulf of America as an example. But today, we're going to start out by discussing the possible halt of producing pennies and what that could mean. Bryce, I know you're very well versed on this topic. Go ahead and start us out. How did this even get brought up?
Last month on X, Elon Musk advised President Trump that the U.S. penny in the 2024 fiscal year lost $85.3 million on the 3.2 billion pennies that it produced. So President Trump last week, he advised the United States Treasury to stop the halt on minting new pennies, citing that this can help cut costs for the taxpayers as well as save money for the United States government.
Now, this is not a new idea, right? Like, we've been talking about doing this for a long time, right? This isn't just like something that Trump just decided to do out of the blue, correct?
Yeah, so there's been ideas that have been brought up by Congress over the years, but this is the first time that this step, it's actually been halted and it's gone through to some sort. But to fully cut the United States penny, there probably likely have to be an act of Congress, which this would not be the first time, as in 1857, the United States Congress passed a bill completely eliminating the half-cent coin and the production of that.
Right. I think a question that a lot of people have about this is, like, if you're a business owner, you're giving change back. What does this mean for these businesses that use pennies as a way to give back change to people?
So my spin on it is it's going to be kind of like the $2 bill. So while we might stop producing new pennies, you're not going to see them just instantly like leave the market and not be able to be used. There's billions of pennies out in the economy, and it's going to be completely impossible and unfeasible to completely eliminate all of those pennies. So you're likely going to still be able to use them at your local markets, at the bank to put money into your bank account. It's just you're going to slowly see the decline in the use of them slowly deteriorate to where eventually at some point we'll get to like how it is with the $2 bill where you don't see that very often.
And as we quit, hypothetically, if we quit producing these pennies, does this going to change the value of the penny at all over time? I know, like, right in the moment, probably not, but like years down the road, if we stop making them, is this going to lead to the penny being far more valuable if you still have one? I
mean, it's quite possible that 100 years from now, if we do stop producing new pennies, that they might be extremely rare, and you might see people flip them around on the market and sell them for like a lot more money. But I mean, I think that's unlikely to happen, just given the mass amount of pennies that are out there.
Oh, right.
I just don't think any time in our like near history, or near future, that's going to happen.
I can't tell you how many pennies that are probably just sitting under the bed of my car right now or in my couch. They're all over the place because whenever I get change, I don't take time to put the pennies in my wallet. I just throw it away. It's like it doesn't even exist. Like, I can't tell you the last time I've actually used a penny to purchase something.
So what popped to my mind was if I have a bill that's, $15.92, what would I pay? Like, am I going to have pennies to pay the 92 cents? So after I did some research, Canada, they round to the nearest nickel. So if I have $15.92, I'm going to give $15.90. For those of you who were, I don't know, I was like, what is going on? Like, how am I supposed to pay? Which I would just want to share that information because that's what was going through my mind.
Right. I mean, it's a valid question right there. My only question for that is, like, do they always round down? Because I'd be pretty mad if they start rounding my bill up. I don't want to pay extra because of that. No.
Yeah. No, they said that, like, so $15.92, for example, you're going to round to 90. If it's $15.93, it's going to be 95.
Oh.
Just whatever the nearest nickel is, And then with payments with check or card, it's just not rounded.
And call me Scrooge McDuck all you want, but I don't want to pay those extra 2 cents. That sucks.
I guess it could add up over time a little bit, but another thing that I was thinking about is like the Ronald McDonald Foundation. Like, a lot of people use their change and their pennies for charitable foundations and contributions. I don't know if McDonald's even still has it, but when you go in and they have like the box and people just throw their change in there, like, I feel like that could affect charity donations as well.
Right. I don't know if they still have the box, but last time I was at McDonald's, like, if you ever pay with your card, they ask you to round up on the card. But I haven't seen the box in I don't know how long. I don't know if it's still around.
It's very rare and seldom that you walk into an establishment and you see a physical jar anymore.
Right.
I mean, our economy, it's gotten very like strict to it's almost all digital currency now. So seeing hard cash and hard cash donation jars, it's not super common anymore.
Right.
And I'm kind of going to move on to the next topic here when I talk about this, but Canada, they got rid of the penny in 2010. So when I first heard about the possible halt in the production of pennies, I was a little taken back. I didn't realize that multiple other countries like Switzerland, Australia, the UK, and Canada have gotten rid of their lowest cent. So now, this is my favorite topic that we have today, Trump wanting Canada as a 51st state. My question is, how does Canada feel about wanting Trump as part of America? Because I kind of think of that as Mexico. If Mexico was trying to get us to join them, obviously we would not want that. So
right.
I want to just go to Canada and do a person on the street, but unfortunately I'm too poor to travel to Canada and do that. But.
Right. I feel like Trump just says things sometimes. It's like his business ideas. You always start with this really outlandish demand that you're not going to get, and then just try to work your way down from there. But I will say, after watching that United States-Canada hockey game this past weekend, I don't think they ever want to be a part of us ever again. That was crazy.
No.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but
I'm not sure what happened. So if you could elaborate on that whole situation a little bit, because I only got little details.
So the NHL was doing a thing where it's a 4-nation showdown. It's the United States, Canada, and there's 2 others. I'm not quite sure on them, but the United States played Canada, and they played both national anthems because the game was being played in Montreal. The Canadian fans booed our national anthem, and then apparently our players took that very personally because there was 3 fights within the first 9 seconds of the game. And then if you actually watch the game, it was a physical game. People were checking each other and just beating the crap out of each other, and big time rivalry. And after seeing this, I'm like, yeah, I don't think Canada wants any part of us anymore.
No. And going back to wondering about Canadian opinions, a recent poll from the Angus Reid Foundation found that over 90% of Canadians are, in fact, opposed to the annexation of Canada. And I think it's really interesting, especially considering this most recent hockey game, as we can see that very clearly reflects that.
Right. And one thing that I wonder, hypothetically, if Canada did become a 51st state, would they just admit the entire country of Canada as one state? Because that's a huge country. I'd almost feel like you'd have to take each of their provinces and make them a state, because Canada is just so big.
Yes.
You wouldn't be accurately represented in Congress if it was just one state.
No.
Well, I was going to say we can add it as 10 or however many provinces they have, add that to the states, so maybe they were to be 51 states, there'd be 59. But how would we break that down? Would there be 16 senators?
It's an interesting dynamic. I guess you had to, if we add each province, you would just have to look at what kind of like what we do here. You have Republican states, you have Democrat states. I'd imagine it would kind of be the same thing like that. If each province was a state, each states are allowed 2 senators, so 2 senators from each of those states or provinces, and then you would just have to do it by population for the House at that point.
Yeah, I think from a political standpoint, I think it'd be really interesting because you'd see the legislature, the United States legislature really grow. And from when it comes to a nation that's so divided by party lines and having that party dominance to get their agendas passed, I think that would be a huge factor in shaping the legislation that you see passing in the United States.
Mm-hmm. I do think this is a fun idea to talk about because just imagine the streets of Toronto or Montreal celebrating the 4th of July with American flags, going to all these baseball games. It's just something out of a fever dream, I feel like, but it's a fun thing to fantasize about, I guess, but I don't see it actually happening.
Yeah, I don't really see it happening either, which is why I'm surprised Trump keeps speaking on it, because at first I thought he just said it as a joke, but I don't know, something makes me feel like it's not really that much of a joke. I don't really know how to work though, because obviously there's 10 provinces, but I want to ask how many of those would be Democrat and how many of those would be Republican.
Right, I'm not too versed on the makeup of Canada like that. Going back to what you said about Trump, I feel like he just says this stuff, try to get clicks, you know how it is, try to get clicks on Twitter, and his business motto has always been, you start with this outlandish demand that you're probably not going to get, and then work your way down from there. I feel like that's just what he's been doing recently, just seeing how much he can get by just saying stuff.
Yeah, and there are some serious logistical implications for this, as Canada is largely a socialist society, mm-hmm. So it would create a lot of logistical implications regarding how do we integrate such a different regime into one like ours.
Yeah, Trump says a lot of things. Who knows if it's going to happen or not. Trump has said he wants to also take over the Gaza Strip, which leads us into our next topic. Gaza Strip, it is ground zero of Israel's war with Hamas. I can say I'm not too educated on this topic, but I know, Callie, you're very educated on this topic. What does Trump exactly want to do with taking over the Strip?
Yes, so this month, President Donald Trump unveiled a relatively controversial plan regarding the United States to take control of the Gaza Strip. And this would entail the relocation of over 2 million Palestinians. And we initially said that we would send troops as well as funding over there, although we quickly backtracked on that. And I think this is very parallel to a lot of historical events we've seen in the past, maybe even the Trail of Tears. What do you think, Chris?
Just seeing Trump speak on this thing, one of his big campaign tools this whole season was he's going to end this war day one. Obviously, probably not really going to happen. This is a long, complicated issue. But it seems like now he's shifting more to like, we're going to end this war and the U.S. is going to go in and fix the problem. Which I don't know how I really feel on that, because I would not support the sending of U.S. troops into this area to do this, but one can only imagine what a Trump-controlled Gaza Strip would look like. Like, okay, we'll put the McDonald's right here, we'll put the casino over here. One can only imagine what he would want to do. He said he wants to make it the Riviera of the Middle East. So I can only imagine it's McDonald's, casinos, just Vegas in the Middle East is what he's probably imagining right now.
Yes, and it's quite funny considering how he would like to send the Palestinians to places like Egypt or perhaps Jordan, yet we see world leaders in the Middle East along with these countries disagreeing with such a take. And it's interesting, as his return back to office, he's already made this promise to execute the largest mass deportation, and I think it's fairly interesting that we're seeing some sort of let's deport people in other countries. So I don't know. It's does this remind you of anything at all in history?
Not necessarily. I think Trump's announcing of this proposal to overtake the Gaza Strip, I think it's really just a power ploy to rally American citizens behind him, shoot up his approval ratings, help pass his legislation. I think, like you said, it's kind of a business ploy. Yeah. He knows this is unlikely to happen. He's just doing this to try to garner support behind his administration. And I'm with you on the saying, I don't think any United States troops should be going into Israel. I think that if you do that, this is just going to turn into another Afghanistan. It's going to turn into a 20-year war where you're going to see thousands of Americans die, and that's just not what this country needs at this point.
With Trump bringing up how he wants to take over the Gaza Strip and, change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, this is why Democrats hate Trump, because he just says things like, oh, I want to make this happen, and then never actually makes that happen. What is his logic behind that?
Like I mentioned earlier, I think his logic behind this is just, shoot for the moon and then, work your way down from there. Typical business stuff like that. He's just trying to see how much he can get out of a situation while, getting the views on Twitter, getting the views on this to try to keep his approval rating up. Typical politician stuff, he's probably got campaign advisors telling him, you need to make something that's going to make headlines because you need to stay in the news cycle like this. It's just, your typical politician talk like that.
It's interesting that you interpret it that way, because some of the language that I hear them use, the administration, sort of reminds me of neo-colonialism, perhaps, maybe a hinge of neo-imperialism. And I do agree with you. I do think he just says stuff to say stuff, quite frankly. But going back to what Kendall said about this is why Democrats hate Republicans, with the Israel issue, I believe it's more of a generational divide, and I feel like people our age are more on the sides of Palestinians. And my impression of the current government apparatus, right, is this is a largely nonpartisan issue. Republicans and Democrats of older generations seemingly agree that perhaps the United States should have a permanent role in the Middle East.
I agree with you with the generational thing, because you look at college campuses around the country, there's overwhelming support for Palestine, but then you look at these exit interviews for older Republicans that go for voting for Trump, and they're overwhelmingly supporting Israel. So you can just see that play out throughout the country right now. But I think both sides agree that for any real work to get done, it's going to take some involvement from us. Hopefully not direct military involvement, but we're going to have to play a role somehow. And both sides want to get this war done because nobody's benefiting from this right now.
No, and perhaps now would be the best time for us to utilize our soft powers, right? Some economic pushes rather than boots on the ground. Because noting Afghanistan as well, the way we pulled out in 2021, the Taliban took over within days. It devastated the country. So
I like how you said like economic pushes like that, which I think is something that Trump does very well. I think that's his like plan A in terms of military things, is to try to get what he wants through economic terms. He really does not like sending troops anywhere, which he campaigned on that a lot too. He wants to end wars and he doesn't want to start any new ones.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. President Trump has made it very clear that he does not want to start or enter into any foreign wars. He wants to pull all troops out of foreign wars. And he does not want our troops to be getting sent overseas because that just causes a whirlwind of problems.
Oh yeah. And then you start this war like this, then as a president of the United States, then you got to be the one to explain to someone's family why someone's brother, someone's husband is not coming home. And then he campaigned on this throughout the entire summer of how he. A quote that he used was no new wars were started under his first administration. He claims that he's going to keep that going for this one. And you see him using economics to get what he wants. I mean, we saw that a couple weeks ago with Colombia, with was the prisoner exchange, stuff like that? Yeah, he used tariffs to kind of get what he wants. I think this is going to be his plan A. Expect more out of this from Trump from coming forward.
Well, I love that conversation about the Gaza Strip. We've talked a lot about Trump and his plans, but there's someone else in the White House that is worth talking about. Caroline Lovett, the youngest press secretary to ever be in the White House and unarguably the most straightforward press secretary. She's extremely loyal to the Republican Party and President Trump. And one thing she's actually trying to do is, which I think is very important, is she's trying to open up the White House to new media personalities, such as podcasters, because let's be honest, most people our generation get their news from podcasts on YouTube or from TikTok. So she wants to invite all those people into the White House to actually get the correct news to post on that. Bryce, what do you think about that? To me, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, no, I think Caroline Leavitt, I think what she's demonstrated is like she's a fiery young press secretary, and my biggest takeaway was her first White House press briefing. She came out fiery, she answered questions, which is something from the last administration we didn't see very often. They were often dodging questions, and she came straight out of the gate and she was answering questions, and she opened up the floor, and she was letting the world know what the Trump administration's doing.
That's one thing I love about watching these new press secretaries with Trump in office. It's full transparency. She's calling on anybody. She doesn't have a list of set reporters that she has to call on. Reporters don't have to submit their questions anymore. It's straight, we're asking questions, we're getting to the bottom of things, and she's not going to put up with anything either. She's a straight shooter, which I think is why a lot of people like her a lot.
Chris, she's a girl boss.
Yes.
She's the definition of a girl boss, and I think that's why I like her so much, because she's just so straightforward with everything she says. Like, if someone asks a stupid question, she's going to say, you just asked a stupid question, like, let me revert you and give you the information that you actually need. And like, that's why a lot of people love her, but like, a lot of people also don't like her because of how fierce and straightforward she is. But personally, I think we need someone like that in the White House. We need someone to just tell the people how it is.
Right, and I think it's on cue with what Trump wants to do. He's always been this, I'm going to tell you how it is, I'm going to rile you up, I'm going to do this. So I think having Caroline as his press secretary is a great move. He's always been known to have press secretaries like this. You go back to his past 4 years, we had Kayleigh McEnany as his press secretary. She kind of fulfilled the same role like that. So it's just kind of, he looks for loyalty, he looks for transparency, and I think he's got a good one here. With all these new laws coming into effect, a lot of people are questioning the constitutionality of them. That's why I thought I would go around our campus here at UIndy, ask people if they knew more about random trends on the internet or the father of our Constitution, James Madison. One question for you, actually two.
Okay.
Do you know who this is?
No, I don't.
You don't know who this is?
I don't know who Skibbity Toilet is.
He knows who it is, chat.
I don't know who Skibbity Toilet is.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
Yeah.
What's his
James
name?
Madison.
There you go.
Yeah.
Would you guys happen to know who these guys are?
No, I know who they are.
No.
You know who these are?
Can't see it. Yeah, I know
Sorry.
who they are.
I wish I knew.
These are the Costco guys.
These are the
right?
Costco guys, yes. Now, would you happen to know who this is?
Looks like a founding father.
Who is it, though?
Don't know which one. James Madison?
Hey, she took a shot in the dark and she got it right.
That's crazy.
She's bringing the boom.
That's my chance.
Would you happen to know who these guys are?
AJ and Big Justice.
The Costco guys bring the boom. Now, would you happen to know who this is?
Is that John Adams?
No. At least she's bringing the boom, but we don't know James Madison. All right, couple questions. Do you guys happen to know who this would be? Don't lie to me.
Unfortunately,
You guys know who is this?
Skippity toilet.
They know it. They know who it is. They got elite brain rot knowledge. Now, let me ask you something. Would you happen to know who this is? Who is this?
James Madison.
You got it? Totally? Yep. I believe him. He's telling the truth, 100%. Would you guys happen to know who these guys are?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who are these guys?
They're the Costco guys.
Boom. He's got it. Now, would you happen to know who this is?
No. They all look the same. Come on,
They're
Brandon.
thinking,
He's got it.
I'm not good with history. Not Jefferson.
let's take a shot in the dark.
Jefferson.
Duke Ferdinand.
Nope.
Benedict Arnold.
No, but you got the Costco guys. At least you guys are bringing the boom, so it's all right.
Who is it?
Do you happen to know who these guys are?
Bro, I just found out who they are yesterday. The boom, boom, boom.
Yes,
boom.
yes, sir. Okay. Would you happen to know who this is, though?
I'm not gonna lie, all the Moe white people look the same.
Right. At least we're bringing the boom, though. That's all that really matters in this world.
Well, it was safe to say everybody was definitely bringing the boom with that one right there. But in terms of their elite Constitution knowledge, I don't know if it was all there. This was definitely a fun experience to do out there. And I learned some stuff too. I do not keep up with these internet trends as much as a lot of people do. So I learned who the Costco guys were. I learned their lore. I learned who was Skibbity Toilet or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what all this stuff's about, but hey, we're learning new things all day. Hopefully, talking to you guys, you would know who at least James Madison is.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys know who Big Boom and AJ and all those guys are, but the campus sure seems to know who those guys were too. Kendall was walking around with me doing that too. We were having a good time filming
Yeah.
that. That was definitely something, wasn't it?
I was dying the whole time because, like, I don't know what these Costco people are. The skippity toilet Riz dude, whatever. Chris showed me that picture and I about threw up. I was like, what even is
I
that?
had to text one of my friends. It's like, hey, send me the dumbest trend that you can think of. And those were the pictures that he sent me. I'm like, who the heck are any of these guys? But you know what? All right, we'll roll with it. Here we go.
But it just goes to show how much students like don't care about politics, which is fine, but I think they need to be a little more well-versed in, what's affecting them. But it is so much easier just to like hop on social media and see a beautiful picture of Skibbity Toilet Riz in the toilet. Like, I don't know.
Man.
Maybe he's more attractive than James Madison and that's why people care. I don't know. But I definitely like that social experiment. It was fun.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. I don't know about the whole attractiveness thing of Skibbity Toilet. I don't know how well that's going to play into the base, but definitely an interesting experience to see that. Always love talking to the Greyhounds out there. Love the people around this campus. Great conversation per usual.
Yes, it's always fun to get their take on what they actually care about. Well, thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Hammer and Nail, the show where we don't just talk about politics, we break it down, dissect it, and sometimes we hit it with the hammer of truth. For Yandy TV, I'm Kendall Pearson alongside Chris Hammer, Callie Evers, and Bryce Howard. We'll see you next time.